On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks fall to the quote-unquote Memphis Grizzlies. What is wrong with the Dallas Mavericks? Who's to blame for a game like this? And does this expose a fatal flaw that the Dallas Mavericks have? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Mavs your first listen today, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, leave a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you listen to, like the video, and comment anything below. Let me know, who do you blame? Who gets the most blame for this loss to the Grizzlies? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And joining me, the postgame prodigy. What you got for me, Slightly Biased?
That's it. I'm speasless.
thought you were about to take a nap. Just,
I wish.
Slowly slide into.
I think that's the problem. I had an
hour
nap before the stream. I'm actually wondering if there's some weird universal energy thing. It feels like almost every time my vibes are not good going into a game, they end up losing. Maybe I just feel something in the air.
Today, we'll talk about that energy. Because that energy was everywhere. We'll talk about who gets the blame. We'll talk about the Memphis game plan that I thought worked really well against the Mavericks. But I want to start here. The person that gets the most blame for this loss, it's got to go squarely on the shoulders of somebody who looked at this game and just said, oh, they've got this. Completely went in overconfident, had no regard for the energy or the power that the words that person said and that they would matter, and just completely disregarded all basketball god rules in life in general. And that person is me. Because yesterday on this show, I said that the Mavericks would win, and I said it twice. I double jinxed them, and they completely lost. And I had, I kid you not, 7 Locked On Mavs listeners come up and tell me that I jinxed this game, and that was the reason why they lost in this game. And but the Mavs lose this game. It's a game they should have won. No Derek Lively, no Exum for the Mavericks, but no Ja Morant, no Jaren Jackson Jr. He was a late scratch. Marcus Smart even went out at the beginning of the third quarter. No Steven Adams, still no Brandon Clark. This Grizzlies team is just battered, beaten. They had just learned that Ja Morant was going to be out for the year, and that was just a massive blow to that team. And apparently they didn't take it like it because they came out and they showed all the hustle, all the heart, and everything to beat this Mavs team tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it can go one of two ways when you learn that a key piece for you is hurt. Sometimes teams just are like, all right, the season is over, whatever, we're done. Or the team comes out, it's like, all right, we need to just pick up the energy and make up for it. And that's what the Grizzlies did tonight. And the Mavericks did not match that energy whatsoever. And yeah, I guess it is your fault. It's got to be like the Giannis thing. Everyone's to blame.
Everyone's to blame.
The podcasters.
The podcasters that talk about this team, they're jinxing us. Let me tell you, this is going to be a clean podcast. This is going to be very clean, right out of the dryer, just completely clean.
The equipment managers are locked in.
This is an embarrassing loss for the Mavs. You just coming off the high of the best win of the season against the Timberwolves. And honestly, this loss feels a lot like the loss against the Jazz right after Christmas. The Mavs win that game against the Suns. Luka scores 50. Everyone's feeling great. They're coming off that high. And then the next game, it was the next game, right? They come off and they lose to that Jazz game. And I remember
the Cavs.
Coming on it was whenever that Jazz game was, it was right after Christmas. I came on the show.
No, they lost. So there's been 3. They lost. They beat the Suns on Christmas night. Then lost to the Cavs without their 3 best players, blew a 20-point lead. Then they beat the Warriors on the road, and we were happy about that one. And then they lost by 50 to the Jazz the next game. So they follow up every decent win with a just horrific loss.
Further proves my point that I was getting to is that the Mavs have these letdown games. And they let these games get to them. They come in overconfident. And honestly, I think they come in without really much of a game plan, much of motivation or anything. And we know they're not getting it from their coaching staff, or at least from the head coach, because the head coach doesn't believe in motivating players necessarily. He's said that several times. If I have to get you motivated, then you shouldn't be in the NBA, basically, and has said that the only thing that motivates players is minutes and shots. That's what he thinks the only thing that motivates players. He does not take the Ted Lasso approach when it comes to coaching and motivating players. So where is it coming from with this team? Does it come from the leadership? We've heard a lot about Kyrie and Luka stepping up and being leaders. I don't know. That comes with who's around the team, who's with the team, what is the team doing, and they just don't get up for some of these games like this. And they're players that you'd think would step up and say, oh, I get an opportunity in this game. Josh Green, Grant Williams, Jaden Hardy, even somebody like Seth Curry. You'd think that they would step up and try and take advantage of a game like this, but give Memphis credit. We'll talk about a little later the game plan that Memphis had, but give them credit because they played defense really well and just kind of stopped the Mavericks from doing anything they wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, I am taking the honest approach after this, where everyone is to blame, top to bottom, the coaching staff, obviously. But, I mean, is Kid wrong in a way? Like, do you need a coach? You're a professional in the NBA. How many years have most of these guys been playing competitive basketball their whole lives? Do you need a coach to tell you, hey, guys, every fourth game, we can't come out and do this? It is like every fourth game with this team. They come out against a team that they're supposed to beat and that they're supposed to take care of. And it is the NBA. You're going to lose games like that from time to time.
But then who does it come from, though? Because it keeps happening. We literally just rattled off 3 instances where they've had these letdown games like this. Does it come from Luka?
I mean, I don't think Luka was particularly great tonight. And if you want to say, well, he got hurt, Biyombo did fall on his knee and it looked pretty painful. So, okay.
Yeah, that was tough.
And I did think that he couldn't walk up the court. I don't understand why this team, if Luka can't walk, he literally cannot walk. There was that transition opportunity where he's trying to run full speed up the floor and it looks like he's 45 years old and they take him out of the game immediately and he goes right to the locker room. So it's like, okay, so the training staff knows, the coaching knows, the coaches know that Luka's very hobbled in this game. Why are we putting him back out there, even though in the fourth quarter he did look a lot better? But it is just like the energy and stuff sometimes from Luka in games like these can be lacking. But I don't know who to blame it on. I'm not in.
But I didn't think that even Luka and Kyrie weren't showing that kind of effort on defense, because usually that's where it comes from, right? Usually they're putting in the effort on offense because they want to just create their own shot. And, they can against a team like this usually. But then on defense, we see them lax. We see them not get back. We see them not get in front of guys and try and stay in front of guys. And I thought they were putting in that effort. So then, where's the rest of it come from, right? Like, where does the lack of motivation or lack of hustle and effort come from when it comes to a game like this after they come out of a letdown? Is it everyone on the team just forgetting, like, how they got to the win that they just got against the Timberwolves? Like, is it that? I mean, you got to give the Grizzlies credit in this one, because I thought they played defense really well, and we'll get into the game plan. But I just wanted to start with just like how embarrassing a game like this is. And yeah, like we could take your approach that you've had in past games, like, this is a toilet game. The problem is they've had like 6 toilet. The toilet is clogging, right? Like they keep having these big highs and these big lows, and it's like, all right, can we just like even out here a little bit?
The toilet game excuse is good when it is literally one game, because those games happen all of the time.
Right.
Even to elite.
Everyone has them.
The 70, what was the record? 74-9 Timberwolves or whatever it was, or Warriors lost at home to the Timberwolves when the Timberwolves were terrible. Like, games like those do happen, and you can just say, all right, just one of those nights. When it is every fourth game, it stops becoming one of those nights, and it's a trend. And it's a trend this team had last year. And if you want to be a great team, this team's not great right now. They're good. They're a good team with a decently high ceiling, right? With their 2 superstars that are incredible. But they're not great. But if you want to be a great team, these are games you can't have with any regularity. You got to weed these games out. You got to figure out whatever it is as a team. Here's what happens on games like these. We show up late, or we don't take shoot around seriously, or we don't follow a game plan, whatever the case may be, because we think we can just go out there and troll for 48 minutes and win a game. But whatever it is, they need to figure it out as a group, as a unit. That's what they need to do.
And I don't want to hear anything about rotations, lineups, minutes, honestly, anything like that, because you should be able to roll the ball out and play with the group that you have out there that you've been playing. The same team just beat the Timberwolves the other night. So it is on effort, it's on intention, and maybe it's that if your defense requires effort, you're going to have games like this because they're not going to be able to put in effort every time. So maybe the biggest blame goes to just the scheme of the team, is that it's based on effort and like putting in effort all the time, which I guess every NBA team and scheme is. But if it's solely based on that, then you can't try to get up for it and put your 100% in every single game in the regular season, I guess.
No, I mean, and I've just watching other teams around the league. I want to say this because I know that there are a lot of people out there that just don't have time to watch other teams play. There's this large clump of teams that the Mavericks are in, which is just these good teams that aren't great. And those teams have these performances frequently. Like, it's a weird thing in the NBA right now where the great teams are like legitimately great. And then you do have these teams that have stinkers all like semi-frequently. So
Kings
this
almost lost to those Pistons.
Yeah. And the Kings have lost at home to the Hornets. Like, these aren't like things that are specifically unique to the Mavericks. But if you do want to get to that upper echelon of teams, you do have to weed games like these out. And like you said about the effort thing on defense, other teams around the league, like, that's how the Thunder play defense. They don't have, like, they have some really good defensive pieces, but they're kind of undersized, similar to the Mavs. They do have Chet, obviously, but they fly around the court. They tip passes. They're very, they're on a string defensively. Everyone flies around. Their defense has been struggling mightily lately, and it looks like they're almost similar to how the Mavs look tonight, where they're just kind of gassed and their energy is kind of lacking. So I don't know if it's just like a January thing and these guys are tired, but yeah, you can't have too many.
It's cold out. It's cold outside. The molecules aren't like traveling as fast. When it's
seasonal depression,
or the molecules are closer together. I don't know, whatever it is. Yeah, they're all SAD. They're sad, and it's because the Mavs are trying to take that step into that next group. We talked about yesterday with Isaac. Where do you think the Mavs can finish? Okay, they could finish top 3 if something goes right. Well, the one thing that has to go right is the Mavs taking that step forward. And we thought that Timberwolves game was a step forward for this team, and then they just take like 2 steps back with this loss to the Grizzlies. Coming up, let's talk about the game plan that the Grizzlies had, because I think that it was a good game plan. I think they stuck to it, and I think that there's some things we can learn from it. We'll talk about that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of odds and props and lines. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. You can go and check out, see what they have available for you at FanDuel. They have all kinds of stuff for the NFL. Let's go check out the Dallas Cowboys. 7.5. It went up to 7.5 now against the Packers on Sunday. You can check out all kinds of different parlays and hubs, playoff specials. Dak Prescott, most passing yards. He's number 1 right now, so you can take Dak Prescott for that if you want to. CeeDee Lamb, most receiving yards in the playoffs. All kinds of stuff you can take with the Cowboys. And if you put down $5 on a money line and you win that, you get $150 in bonus bets. Check it out, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. I'm live here at the AAC, and they're tearing up. They're tearing down, and the Mavs tore themselves down in a lot of ways in this game. The game plan, I thought, though, for the Grizzlies was pretty good, and it was good because they had the personnel to be able to do it, even though they were without, honestly, like a starting 5's worth of players. Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Marcus Smart eventually, Steven Adams, Brandon Clark. Like, they're just out so many different players. But what they did was they allowed Luka and Kyrie to get any switch they wanted, because they could switch with a bunch of – because they didn't have to play – they didn't have any centers that, like, they didn't feel like could at least stay with Luka and Kyrie. Xavier Tillman, Bismack Biyombo are both switchable-ish centers. They're smaller. They're like 6'8", 6'9". They're not that big, but they're big bodies, and they can stay with Luka and Kyrie at least a little bit. And so they allowed the Mavericks to get Luka and Kyrie just one-on-one against either one of those guys or whoever else it was, David Roddy too. And then they stayed with the shooters. So the Mavs didn't create like any open threes in this game. I mean, how many did they take in total? It was like 27 in basically in regulation before garbage time. And 8 of those are Luka's, 7 of those are Kyrie's. Like, those are not the catch and shoot shots that the Mavs create off of the attention Luka gets, the attention Kyrie gets. They were just not creating any of those types of shots they normally do. The Mavs average 43s a game. They took 27 in this one. And like, they just took them out of their game plan with their defense. Let's just start there.
Yeah, and they also shoot more corner threes than anyone. They only attempted 6 corner threes tonight.
Yeah.
So, like you said, the Grizzlies I thought they did a really good job defensively. Like, we can talk about the Mavericks, how poor they showed up and how poorly they played, because they did. But the Grizzlies did do a legitimately good job. They were comfortable with Vince Williams, who's been really good for them. They were comfortable with him guarding Luka. They were comfortable with Marcus Smart guarding Kyrie. And like you said, they were comfortable with really anybody switching on to those guys when the Mavericks were trying to get switches, and they did a good job. And this is where having even like Exum helps out tremendously in games like these, where you just have another guy where it's like, all right, here's the ball, you go and do stuff too. So we have 3 guys now who can do things off the dribble.
Well, they tried with Hardy. They kept trying to put Hardy in and kept trying to. He just couldn't get the. Hardy just hasn't had like his driving just hasn't really. His driving hasn't been there. He loses the ball, and it just doesn't seem like he has the rhythm there, and his dribble just seems loose to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean they tried with it, and they played Luka and Kyrie together a lot in this game because they kept trying to put them out there and say, all right, let's one more shot. They even played them into the fourth quarter where it just felt like this game the Mavs were never going to catch up because they couldn't defend well enough either. But they started the fourth quarter, and I was like, okay, Kid is really going to try, and they kept him in until like the 3-minute mark until it was garbage time.
Yeah.
And so those guys even played together a lot. So it wasn't like they weren't playing the stars together. It wasn't like they were just putting too much pressure on one of the stars or the other. It was that game plan where they took away threes. And Luka and Kyrie, if that's going to be the case, those two have to be like excellent. You have to be excellent at what you do and at scoring one-on-one against somebody in order for you to win a game like this, especially when you can't defend well enough.
Yeah. Also, you just got to like do some like get out and transition a little bit more. Try to generate easier looks.
Well, they couldn't get stops.
Yeah, the Mavericks couldn't get stops at all.
Couldn't get stops, and they couldn't get rebounds at all.
Yeah, they the Grizzlies got an offensive rebound on 41% of their half-court possessions. I mean, that's an absurd number, And it's not like this is a massive Grizzlies team, especially without Steven Adams. So, I mean, Tillman was working on the boards, and the Mavericks got outmatched there. But
they're not a massive Grizzlies team, but the Mavericks basically, because of their injuries to Lively, to Maxey, I guess a little bit, Omax being in the G League tonight, like Mavs didn't have any size at all, and so it played right into the Grizzlies' hand. Where it basically was like 2 rec teams where there's a couple of tall guys, but then the big dudes are the ones that are able to rebound. So Roddy got like 7 or 8 rebounds, Tillman got like 10 rebounds. You had those guys that are not tall, but they're just big dudes, and they just pushed the Mavs out of the way. The Mavs look so small in this game over and over again. And they really missed Derek Lively. Honestly, if they had Lively, but not like Kyrie or Luka, they win this game. It just seems like that would be the difference if you just had one guy that could bust what the Grizzlies were trying to do.
Yeah, that and a guy who can just be somewhat of a deterrence in the paint. They were much better in the second half defensively, I thought. But first half, I mean, it was just like, guys, can we just give like an ounce of resistance to Desmond Bane? Like, are we just gonna let him walk right into the paint just whenever he wants? Like, was the game plan like, hey, guys, Marcus Smart can take layups? Well, layups, those are easy shots. Usually we leave guys open for threes. Nope, he can take layups tonight, guys. We decided as a team we're cool with giving up 2 points every time down the floor.
And then when they couldn't stay in front of somebody, then this is where the effort comes in and the like paying attention and making sure everybody's like crisp and sharp and like on their toes. Then if somebody gets beat, which happens, it happens to literally every defender in the NBA basically.
You're going to get beat.
When somebody
pretty much every time.
It happens. Like the defense, like the rules are made so that a defender can't like stay in front of a guy like no matter what, like they'll be called for a foul. So when you get beat, everybody's got to rotate the right way. And the Mavericks were playing catch up, I felt, all night with the Grizzlies just passing, kicking to the open guy, and they eventually found an open guy. The Grizzlies got a bunch of open shots, and they took 37 threes and hit 14 of them.
Yeah. And they're one of the worst shooting.
Considering they don't have a ton of 3-point shooters out there. But Bane got 9, Smart got 8. Vince Williams, Zaire Williams, both get 5. Luke Kennard gets 4. Conchar gets 2. Like Roddy gets 2. Like all of a sudden you're like, okay, if all these guys are starting to get threes, then the Grizzlies are the ones creating the open threes, which is what I was on with Kelsey Wright from the Grit and Grind Media, and I was like, whoever hits the most threes, basically, this one's going to win. If the Mavs can create the open threes, they'll win. If the Grizzlies somehow create more open threes, then the Mavs have, not really a shot because then that's really taking the Mavs out of their game plan somehow. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to tip your cap to the Grizzlies. This is when you would like a coach just kind of step in and be like, all right, guys, we need to run something else. We need to run, some screen, some off-ball stuff. I mean, it's just when it does get into the ISO heavy game, that's when it really starts to get ugly for the Mavericks because, like you said earlier, Luka and Kyrie have to just be unbelievable, like top of their game, tough shot. And that's an impossible ask, really, every single game. That's when you need to start running. Hey, let's run some flare screens, or let's get somebody in movement or something, or let's have someone lift from the corner or something. Like, it's just not a lot of movement happening. Just to my untrained eye, it looked like the Mavericks just really struggled to get good looks at all in this game.
They got outcoached.
Yeah,
really,
they did.
right? Like it happens in this game. But you also like look at this game and go, shouldn't necessarily take coaching if you have that much more talent than the other team
No,
to win this game.
it was not a good performance.
Not a good one. Coming up, let's talk about what the Mavs need to do going forward. Let's talk about what the Mavs need to do against the Knicks. If the Mavericks need to get a power forward in a trade, we'll talk about some of that kind of stuff coming up. Oh, yeah. Today's episode brought to you by Betterhelp. I think I'm going to need Betterhelp after this game. I think I need some therapy to sit down and talk through my feelings about a game like this because it just frustrates you so much. If you have something in your life that frustrates you, it doesn't matter what it is. Everybody's got something in your life that frustrates you, that causes you anxiety. If you have something that you lay in bed and like look at the ceiling and just can't stop thinking about over and over again, or you've got to sit and like write something down because you just got to get a thought out of your head, you may need therapy. You may need to talk to somebody. You may need to have somebody just walk you through something in life, or somebody to listen to some thoughts that you have about something. If you're starting to think about therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've made already, but continue it with BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. Again, BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Slightly, let's talk about this Dallas Mavericks team. The rumors out there, Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports was on a Toronto Raptors Spaces today on Twitter, which is a weird thing to say. But he talked about that the Mavs are still looking for a power forward. What are your thoughts on where the Mavericks are with their power forwards? Grant Williams was really disappointing tonight. I don't know if it was an injury or something, but he ended up only playing 7 minutes. He was kind of questionable before the game. Where are the Mavericks with their power forwards, and why are they looking for one right now? Where are they going to get one? Let's go. Let's do that whole conversation.
I mean, they just desperately need more size. I don't think that's that much of a secret, but it's weird though, because you need somebody who does a wide range of things. Like, I don't think you need to go out and just get a 4 just for the sake of getting a 4. Like, people keep saying like Chris Boucher to me. I don't want Chris Boucher at all. Personally, I don't think he's very good. Like, I just don't want to trade for a 4 just for the sake of having a 4 on the team. You need somebody who can do things with the ball in their hands and is going to help you out defensively, which is why Siakam is like feels like a pretty seamless fit for this Mavericks team. And even if his shooting numbers have been pretty bad this year, they've been much better, I think, since the start of December. But it is just somebody who also changes things for you. Like in a game like tonight where, okay, we can't generate any threes and the Grizzlies are clamping down on those threes. All right, now we have a guy like Siakam who can get into the paint and get us actually pretty good looks and has the size to finish down there. So somebody like that, and in my opinion, it's either needs to be, if they're not going after one of the bigger fishes, then I don't really know what they do, because I don't want to trade anything like significant for a stopgap fix or like a panic trade.
I was gonna say, I've seen like the PJ Tuckers out there, and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe that helps with your like culture, and maybe that helps get you another vet that's been deep in the playoffs. But I don't know if that's changing my life.
PJ
right?
Tucker?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was a name that people were floating around.
Well, a 4. You just started to think about 4s out there. You're like, okay, well, they've talked about Siakam, who you mentioned, Jeremy Grant, Kyle Kuzma is a name out there, but I guess he would bring some size. He's 6'9".
Yeah.
And he could defend. He defended on that Lakers team. He doesn't really shoot the ball that well. I was looking at his numbers today, and like all throughout his college career, NBA, he shot 36% from 3 one time in his career. But maybe if he comes to the Mavericks and gets some more open threes, that changes it, like Derrick Jones Jr. But even Derrick Jones Jr. now is kind of regressing in that a little. But, yeah, you're right that they just need some size. You see it in a game like this, where if they had one more, like, Omax type 4, that could play and that was viable, they would change a lot about what they do.
Yeah, but again, it can't just be some one-dimensional guy. And maybe, just having some size would help more, but it's just like, remember, you have to give up things to get things. And the Mavericks do have a limited asset pool.
Wait, hold on. Say that again.
You have to, guys, I don't know, like, teams know, like, we can sit here and be like, Maxi Kleber is so washed. He's terrible. That contract
send
sucks.
Maxi, Dwight, and Tim Hardaway for a max player.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't work like that. And the Mavericks have this weird contract situation with all of their guys. They don't have, like, real mouthwatering expirings. Like, they don't have guys where teams
Not
are like
next year.
Right, yeah. Like those aren't contracts that they have. So it's just kind of this weird situation the Mavs are in, where it's just like, if you want to get one of these more one-dimensional role guys who's maybe a 7th or 8th man for you, but he helps you out with size, okay, then what are you giving up? Because you're probably going to have to overpay for it. given your assets is the problem, I think, just because of your contracts. And it's hard to find guys who fit into the expirings that you do have, like a Markieff Morris who's barely making anything, or the $4 million trade exception you have.
Yeah, this is why I've been on the case that if they're going to make a big move, it's going to be this summer, where this summer they'll have Tim Hardaway and Rashawn Holmes on expiring. They'll have the 3 picks. They'll have a bunch of stuff that they can put in to try some kind of big trade, because they do need to take like one big step forward, and it's got to be the right piece.
Yeah.
Around Luka and Kyrie. So you think? Wait, let's go back to. You think Siakam's a seamless fit?
Maybe not seamless, but I think he would fit pretty well. I mean, I don't really see why not. And my whole thing with Siakam was I didn't think the Mavericks had what it took to get him.
Yeah.
But now, as time is starting to progress, and some of this
he's
stuff
not signing anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This trade market could line up to work in the Mavs' favor if he is comfortable signing here for an extension. Otherwise, it's a terrible move, and you should not do it. Like, you should not mortgage any type of future and trade your whatever depleted trade assets you have left for a guy who's going to be leaving in 4 months or has the risks to. Because the Sixers are looming large. They have a max cap spot space in the offseason. Like, they're a scary team to have in free agency. Like, the Rockets having money is not that scary to me.
You shouldn't sign a player that is known to have asked for trades before and has said that he's going to re-sign a place and then doesn't re-sign a place and then, has like bounced around from teams. And they shouldn't re-sign a player like that and maybe lose him in 4 months.
Yeah, they shouldn't be doing that.
They just did that with Kyrie.
Yeah, but Kyrie, I knew from the moment it happened that they were comfortable. Right, I believed in them.
Different story. Nico had that relationship with him since since high school, kid, and all that kind of stuff. That's a different scenario. The Siakam, though, he wants the ball in his hands. I can't get past that, where he wants the ball, and I don't know how much he's going to get it with Luka and Kyrie. He will when one of them sits or when one of them's out. Like, obviously he'll have that, but I can't get past that. And he would definitely make the team better, obviously, right? Like, he would come in and bring a lot of things. But yeah, I'm stuck on that to see if he would be happy in Dallas, which maybe he would be.
I think he would. I mean, I don't see why. He's currently averaging 16 shots a game this year. I think you
can find 16 shots in this Mavs offense, right?
Yeah, I think pretty comfortably.
How many is Tim averaging?
Tim barely shot tonight. Like, that was actually a reason why. If the Mavs can't get Tim Hardaway Jr. going, the offense kind of sputters. Tim's at 14 shots a game. We could get Siakam 16, I think, pretty comfortably.
Well, is Siakam happy with where he is? How many shots he's getting right now? I don't know about that. Maybe that's why.
I mean, is it the reporting that he wants to stay? That's why this has all been confusing to me.
Now, I think it's all. I've talked to Sean Woodley of Locked On Raptors with this. It all feels like it's a leverage play from Siakam's side to get a bigger signing this offseason, right? Like, to try and be like, I want to stay. I'm not going to sign anywhere else. Like, well, to try and keep pushing them forward. But I don't know. Well,
it makes sense because he does have leverage. Because if it's like, well, if you want to trade me, because he is eligible for that 5-year max, isn't he? Which is a contract I don't really feel super comfortable giving out to him. But if he gets traded to a team, it wants to be with the team that he feels comfortable signing that contract with. Because then he hits free agency and he makes less money. I don't know. If the price is right, I'm all for it.
He makes less years. He would be signed to 5 with the Raptors, but it would be 4 if he, I guess, signed with signed outright with the Sixers next summer or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough. We'll see.
I'm standing on one. I don't think Siakam gets traded at all. That's my ultimate prediction. It'd
be such a Raptors thing to happen, to trade OG Anunoby out of nowhere and not trade Siakam.
Yeah. Plus, they could always just sign him and then trade him again, trade him down the line if that's what they want to do. And two, I don't think we get a big Mavs move. I just don't. Especially after games like tonight, it sucks because you really want one. You're like, okay, they desperately need to do something.
They'll do something. I think they will do something. Like, I think they'll have some kind of trade, but maybe it'll be like, a smaller type move. Have you seen the memes going around that compare Grant Williams to DeLon Wright and Josh Richardson?
Yeah.
Did you see that tonight?
I did see it. Yes.
Do you buy that he's now falling into that category of a defensive player you bring in that you're really excited for, fills a position of need, and then all of a sudden it's just been really disappointing?
I saw somebody say, how did we make a trade where we traded away Reggie Bullock and we lost the trade?
Come on. Still not true, by the way. But they did lose his island. They lost Reggie Bullock's island, his like literal physical island, and if you lose that in a trade, I mean, you lose the trade. But
True. You are like probably losing just in terms of land value. You are losing that trade. But
in terms of tax dollars that come back to you.
Just give me some more time with Grant. He was limping. I did see him limp.
I'm gonna keep believing in Grant. It's maybe my my toxic trait. It's maybe my red flag that I still believe in Grant and Josh. Like I'm still.
Well, you're not trading Grant right now. I'm telling you that right now. The chances of Grant being traded are very slim. Very slim.
Unless they just need to throw in a contract, but they could just throw Maxey. He's making the same amount of money. So
I just think it's very slim. Grant gets traded. Not saying I don't want him to or anything. I mean I really don't. But
well, you don't want to trade somebody at their lowest value either. That just doesn't make any sense either. So there you go. That's who's to blame for this team. For this team lost tonight against the Grizzlies, an awful one. Tomorrow we'll talk more about the Mavs trades. I think I'm going to go through some of the power forwards. If everybody keeps talking about power forwards, let me just bring up a bunch of them on the show tomorrow, and we'll talk about those. And then maybe some good guests coming up this week. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom!